Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another week. This week it's lovely and grey outside, which means it's the perfect time to watch another episode of Doctor Who. Um, this is the show Shouting into the Void, where we go through the new Who series of Doctor Who that started in 2005, and we watch the episode each week, and then we talk about it. So now we're currently at, and I counted, but I've forgotten, is it episode 4?
You're goddamn right it is.
Episode 4 of Series 2, The Girl in the Fireplace. This episode sees the Doctor and Rose and Mickey, who has joined the TARDIS team since the following episode, the previous episode, and they land on a space station. But it's a pretty weird space station because it's connected to 18th century France. Why? We find out why. The characters don't, but we find out why. But effectively, there's these doorways, these ways into 18th century France from this 51st century, and the TARDIS team have to figure out why. Why is that happening? That's basically it, really. So, what did you think of the episode?
Well, I mentioned in the last one, I was like, yeah, this one's fine. I know it's a fan favorite, but I was never like all about it because I don't like the romance element. I did enjoy it more, I think, this time, mainly because if I rewatched Doctor Who, I tend to just skip this one because I was like, yeah, it's fine. But having watched School Reunion and then coming back to this one again, what they probably unintentionally, well, they did unintentionally set it up because Stephen Moffat didn't read the script for the last one before this. But having this one take place after the last one, I think really helped me enjoy this one and the romance element a lot more. Mm-hmm. There's still some things that I'm not keen on about it, but yeah, this was a fun one. I liked how they continued the idea of the Doctor being this lonely god, as they said in New Earth, and now this one he's a lonely angel. I liked how he was kind of interpreted by other people in this one. It's funny watching these, like, my God, do they hammer it home that Rose is leaving at the end of this season? It's like, monsters and the Doctor, you can't have one without the other. How long will you continue to live this life without paying the ultimate price?
Yeah.
You can't spend the rest of your life with me. It's quite funny now. So I remember they didn't announce she was leaving. I was on holiday in Greece when they announced she was leaving. And it's funny because the 2 weeks I was away, so I couldn't watch the episodes live, it was Love and Monsters and Fear Her.
Oh,
it's very funny. And it was during that time when they announced she was leaving. So it is cool looking back and seeing, damn, yeah, they definitely do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really great episode. I definitely enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yeah, I'd say I think I enjoyed this one just as much as last week's. Obviously, last week we sort of mentioned that maybe that one wouldn't have been as high if it wasn't for Sarah Jane. Mm-hmm. Whereas I felt that this one, it didn't need a reference, a callback to make this episode good. It can be good stood by itself. And I think that's shown in the guest cast. I think it's shown in the set design, the costume design, even the design of the monsters. The plot as well. I think you can see more of how Stephen Moffat's unintentionally sowing the seeds for when he takes over. There's a couple of things in here I sort of thought, hang on a minute. He explores more things in this when he takes over with Matt Smith, and I think you can see little bits of this in that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I did enjoy this one. I mean, there's not much else to say. It wasn't like I didn't feel like there was massive negatives. There are things I don't really like that they do. But nothing that makes me think I absolutely hated this, which means the whole episode is going to be a 3.
Yeah, I think like my main issue is I think maybe an extra 5 minutes could have suited it. That's where 2 of my 3 negatives come from.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, I mean, we'll before we get to the negatives, we do tend to do 3 positives and 3 negatives. We try to stick with that as well as we can, but that very rarely happens unless it's, I guess, a boring episode. It tends to be 3 and 3, but that rarely happens anyway.
Unless it's New Earth, and then we just go to town on negatives.
Yeah, I know. And it's only going to get better from here. But so we always start with the positives just so that we can spend more time on the negative, even though we're not really limited by time anyway. But that's just how it goes. So what is your first sort of positive of the episode?
The aesthetics and the visuals. I think of all the ones so far since we started doing this, I think this is the most interesting episode just to look at. I think the droids and how they look, their design, both with the masks on and off, are awesome. I think seeing like the human body parts in the ship, the visuals of that looked really cool. The kind of contrast with these like bright, warm colors in Versailles versus the spaceship, it's a bit, duller and warmer, like cold colors as well. The image of the horse smashing through the mirror, iconic and unbeaten. And yeah, just the different kind of styles of colors that we see. Very like yellowy, orangey in the scenes in France. On the ship, there's more like a blue kind of coloring, and the very ending sequence with Reinette, her body being taken away. It's all like grey and gloomy, and just visually really cool looking episode.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I've put sort of in one of my points that just the clash between the 51st century spaceship sci-fi and then this 18th century period piece. It's a really cool and unique sort of way they've blended the two together.
Yeah, I think the story really makes it work, I think.
Yeah, normally you end up with a period piece like Tooth and Claw, or you end up with a futuristic piece like New Earth. But I think this one successfully puts the two together, and it's something that Moffat does quite well, I think, as well. If you think of, to some extent, the Doctor Dances and the Nth Child, that's a similar aesthetic, I guess, although not to this extreme. But yeah, I did enjoy the set design. The designs of the droids, they're so creepy when they first appear. Like
that jump scare got me again. I think I said last time, like that when he lashes under the bed.
Yeah,
like, that gets me every time. I know to expect it, and it's still. Oh.
Yeah, and then you sort of just see the feet, the shoes, the terrible shoes, and then you just see him like out of focus behind Reinette.
Yeah, I'd kind of forgotten the setup of that jump scare as well, but. Yeah. Watching that scene, I was like, "Oh, yeah, there's a ticking in the background," and I'd forgotten about the broken clock kind of element. So I was like, "Oh, when that appeared, I was like, oh yes, okay, here we go."
You can hear it. You can always hear it throughout that scene, and it doesn't. You don't clock it until it's brought to your clock it. You don't notice it until it's brought to your attention. Yeah. But yeah, their costume and then sort of the clockwork that's inside. The only issue I have is they're like blades, look a bit naff.
Yeah,
I'm not really threatened by a cog that goes zzz.
Yeah,
but okay. So they will look cool, and there's just a weird creepy element of having an eyeball in a security camera and a heart in a it's just so creepy. And I'm glad that Moffat does bring that back to some extent in Capaldi's first episode. I don't think it's done as well there, but
no, human skin balloon. Maybe.
Yeah, but I think
that takes the aesthetic a bit too far, I think.
Yeah, a little bit. But yeah, this one just looked excellent. There were some editing choices I thought were a bit odd, but I'll come on to them into my worst bits. But yeah, it just looked. It's probably one of the nicest episodes we've seen. Yeah. I think so far. But yeah, so what's your sort of next positive then?
Speaking of nice looking things, Sophia Myles as Reinette.
Yeah.
I think really great performance. I think the chemistry isn't just there with David Tennant. I really like the scene with her and Rose. That was actually a big standout for me that I was really surprised by. Would have loved to see with just her and Mickey one-on-one to see how that dynamic would have worked, but I think it was more so the other two they focused on. And I just like, I don't know anything about, obviously the real life person this is based on. I don't know exactly how she was like, but she was even remotely like this. Pretty cool woman. I liked how wise she seemed. I think the episode would have absolutely flopped if you weren't rooting for her and connected with her and went on her side. Like, for instance, Adam in The Long Game was not the case. So yeah, I just enjoyed what she brought to the role, how kind of insightful she could be, how much she kind of just owned any situation she was in. It's like, well, I like the little bit of doubt she had when she was like, went into the spaceship. And then as soon as she kind of realized like what was going to happen, she kind of faced with the reality of that when she heard her voice and she heard all these people screaming. It's like, well, I guess I'm going to wait 5 years. That couldn't have been an easy thing, being like, my future is going to be awful in 5 years' time, but I have to do it anyway, go the long way around. Yeah, I just thought she was a really great character, and the episode would have sucked if she didn't work, but she did.
Yeah, it makes sort of Reinette wasn't one of my best points, but she's sort of on the edge. If you think about Reinette and Rose in this episode and then compare that to Sarah Jane and Rose in the previous episode, there is a massive difference.
Yeah.
This dynamic is what I wanted to see in last week's episode. Because I even wrote down, like, Rose she's not jealous of Reinette. She's not horrible to her. She's terrible at explaining what's going to happen. She can't do that very well. I literally put, Rose is terrible at explaining to Reinette, and then I went, but at least she's not jealous. So that's the bar, I guess.
I think you can tell she does clock that the Doctor's kind of into her a bit, and she's very aware of that. And you see the little single tear when she thinks the Doctor's gone forever. I think she is kind of jealous, but she doesn't take it out on Reinette, which is the difference, and something she's never done before. I'm like, yay, character growth.
Yeah, finally, we've had it after a season.
Finally, after 18 episodes.
Yes.
She's not taken something out on someone who didn't deserve it.
But yeah, Reinette, I think, and the actress, if it was somebody else, I don't think it would have worked so well. You really believe that it's the actual person, I guess, rather than someone playing someone.
Yeah, coming from it in 2021, I know obviously the TARDIS translates them anyway, but the fact that these are supposed to be French people and
they have to remind you that it's French.
All their British accents and everything. Maybe they could have, casting wise, done something else, and they literally just offered her the part. She didn't have to audition. Yeah. So they clearly have something in mind. But again, TARDIS translation,
they needed to get it in. It's fine. They need to let you know that that's still there. Yeah. But hey, the Chernobyl HBO drama literally had everybody with English accents because they didn't want them to do a terrible Russian accent. So
yeah, that's also true. That would take you out of the episode, I guess.
But yeah, they do really hammer home that, hey, we're still in France. We're still in France. We are French. We're in France. We're still here. But yeah, I think she did justice to the role.
And Child Reinette wasn't terrible. She wasn't great. She wasn't terrible.
We'll come on to my worst.
Oh no! You just don't like kids in Doctor Who, do you?
Oh, I know.
School reunion all over again.
It is. Yes, adult Reinette was amazing. I think her story arc in this as well.
That's why I added Sophia Miles into the positive, because I'm like the main Reinette we see. Yes,
yeah. And yeah, I messaged you before this. I was like, the ending is unnecessarily sad. Like, it's just like a nice woo, woo. And then all of a sudden it's like she's dead. It's like, oh, okay then. I know people don't live forever, but I wasn't expecting this.
No.
I suppose it kind of makes sense as well because it's only 6 years after the Doctor last saw her. So in theory, she wouldn't have died if she didn't die so young, if you know what I mean, if that makes sense. If she was to live a normal,
how much every window skipped time, she would have still been about. She didn't die in her 40s.
And thank God he got there literally on the day of the funeral.
I know, right? As they were taking her body away.
It's amazing timing. But yeah, I think the one criticism I sort of have of that is I wish she was sort of a companion. I wish she went along, because we haven't had that in New Who where sort of someone from the past has sort of come along as a companion.
I mean, that's why it was such a missed trick with Clara, because they were going to have Victoria and Clara be the companion, then they changed their mind.
They decided not to. I mean, no, people work with modern. It's fine.
Modern day Clara. I mean, I still love Clara anyway in any incarnation, obviously, but that would have been really cool. I hope they do that one day.
Yeah, because we've had like hints of it with the best episode, Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, when they take, I mean, it's not the best episode, it's not the best example, but I think it's basically the only example we've had of someone from the past going on an adventure with them rather than us going to the past. I just think she would have been...
remembered the bloody robots from that episode. Oh. That's my negative sorted for that one.
Yeah. I just think it would have been a good insight to have. It would have been a different view to take someone from the past and bring them on an adventure. It only had to be one, but I guess they just figured it's too much hassle. We've already got two.
She was choosing a star. When she was like, but don't you, Rose, the Doctor's worth the monsters. I was like,
Why would the Doctor
Oh
ever
God,
have?
you're so dead.
Why would the Doctor ever have 3 companions? That's a mistake. Nobody would ever
Yeah.
do that. That's
No
too
one,
many.
even in the classic series, no one ever
They
got
would never have
famously axed
3.
because there were too many companions, and then they do it
No,
again in the
God.
current series.
But yeah, so she was on sort of my outsides of the best. An honourable mention for me, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of my other best is David Tennant as the 10th Doctor.
What?
In this one, hey, we've had a couple of episodes where I've not mentioned him,
Have you?
but I think, well, I mean, he was. I don't think he was in my best last week. I don't think he was in it for Tooth and Claw. Let's have a little look.
I thought you said the Doctor and Rose was like a positive for Tooth and
Yeah,
Claw,
David Tennant and
right?
Billy Piper were, but this is just sort of the Doctor as a whole and David Tennant. Just because it's another episode where I sort of thought, hey, we're actually seeing him. It was a Doctor-focused episode, I thought.
Yeah.
Because he got the most to do. He wasn't outshone by a classic return, a CGI monster, that kind of thing. He had time to act, and he did it well. We see a number of emotions from him: sadness for the end, happiness for when he saves Reinette and he can go back. Drunk Doctor. We also drunk. He's not. I don't think he's really drunk.
Faking drunk. Yeah.
But and then we see the hero side of him come out as well. Across the board, I just thought he was great. This was the first episode I think since New Earth that I sort of pointed to David Tennant specifically and thought this is great. Because obviously it was part of more of an ensemble last week, but I felt this week he was given more time to shine and more heroic moments for himself, I think.
Yeah, so different, like, you never had an episode with 9 where it was like, let's give him a romance and see if that works. So I feel like that kind of story does work with 10, I think, more than any Doctor could.
Yeah,
so
he's definitely the more charming of the
they called him the romantic Doctor, and I think that's fair based on episodes like this.
Yeah, exactly. And even Mickey points it out that there's been other women that have seemingly fallen at his feet and stuff, which doesn't surprise me. But I just think that David and the Doctor were both great in this episode, and it just shows that there's still a depth to the character, and he's not just the vehicle to move the story and the companions to a different location. Which was great for me, to be fair. It really sort of hit home that, hey, this is Doctor Who, not companion what. Oh, that's the worst joke I think I've ever made.
It's the worst joke anyone's ever made, but
well, we'll see about that. We've still got however many series of Doctor Who to go.
True.
So what's your sort of next positive?
The ending sequence. Very sad, but I think very well done. I love the kind of letter she wrote to him, very melancholy, like Godspeed, my lonely angel. And before, when I'm still not that invested in the romance because I still don't really like it. But this time that really did work for me because of School Reunion. In the fact that we had that whole scene last time when he was talking to Rose about how it's like the curse of the Time Lords, like people that he cares about, people that he loves will, grow old and die, and he'll just keep going on. So I think just the episode on its own, just watching it like that, I'd have been like, oh, I don't like the romance. Let's just skip, please. But when they unintentionally set it up so well with School Reunion, I think it really does work that they instantly kind of explored that in the very next episode with this kind of story. So that whole ending when he's like reading the letter and all of that was really well done, very sad. The last kind of shot of the spaceship just floating sadly and lonely in space was kind of sad as well. And the reveal that the spaceship's called SS Madame de Pompadour was like, aha!
So that's why it was done.
That's why they were doing that. And it's not every day, we get the answers as the audience and the characters don't. So I quite like that they changed it up quite a bit. So that whole kind of final ending sequence, Rose checking up on him, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm always fine. In deep down, he just wants to cry and rip his heart out. A really kind of melancholy, but very well done way of ending the episode, I think.
Yeah, I agree. That wasn't one of my best points, but I do. it was, like I sort of mentioned, it was unnecessarily sad just because it didn't need to be that. There didn't need to be that ending. But I appreciated the choice that Stephen Moffat went for. And it did make it feel that there was more depth to the story and there was more of a relationship there, I guess, rather than it just being, okay, bye, we're leaving now, kind of like what they did with Queen Victoria, where they're like, okay, bye,
Yeah.
see you later, Queenie. This one did feel like it had more of an emotional impact on the characters, whereas in that one it was kind of like, we've been banned from the we've been banned.
That's not going to come back to haunt us
exactly.
at any point.
But yeah, I do agree. So my sort of last positive is Mickey and Rose's dynamic. I think this is what they were supposed to be like before the Doctor, maybe. This is how they were supposed to, like, I could see why they were in a relationship from these scenes, I guess.
Yeah, when he's dancing in the first episode and she's laughing at him.
Yeah,
for reasons, because people do that in real life.
Yeah, I know. So I can see why they were in a couple. And I think that the scenes between them really added a kind of a good humor to the episode.
It's kind of ironic, really, because watching that episode, I wouldn't have said that they were ever together. I feel like they're just really good friends, and that's when it works the best.
Yeah, exactly. And that was sort of one of my points, is there's no baggage there with the two of them. You don't get remember when we were dating, or you're not going to stay with, you don't get that. Neither of them hate the other one. Neither of them are jealous of the other one in this episode. They're just both happy to be there. Obviously it doesn't make sense after Rose's look in the last episode where we ended and Mickey came along. She was like, oh no, fuck off. We don't see that, obviously, because fine, whatever, it doesn't bother me too much. But I just think their interactions were great. It was kind of like Rose teaching Mickey how to be this companion.
Disobey the Doctor.
Yeah, it's like, he said not to go anywhere. He goes and gets the gun and goes. I'm like, that's good. And I enjoyed. Mickey was kind like, there was two sides to this. Mickey, well, the first half he was like loving life, like, a space station. He was like rolling all over the place and being like cool. But then as soon as he was captured, he's like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Is that real switch? Is that real
Precious Doctor now.
Where he was like, what have I done? Oh no,
I never trusted him. I never trusted him. What did I come?
But yes, I liked how, although that was very much a C plot in this whole episode, but I did enjoy the dynamic between those two. I feel that's something that I would have liked to have seen more. I think if we had more of that.
Funny you should say that as we come into the negatives.
Yeah, exactly. If we had more of that, maybe this series or towards the end of last series, maybe Mickey's character wasn't as bad. But
I'm sure we have plenty more episodes with that dynamic.
Yeah, I'm sure. I doubt we'll. I doubt
definitely not just one more story. I mean,
Yeah, I doubt he'll be going anywhere anytime soon. But yeah, I guess that might be a negative in next week, because this one he seems like he's having a great time. But then spoilers for the next story, he then decides to stay there. So maybe there's a little bit of a flip flop there. But
yeah.
For this episode, at least, I enjoyed the two of them together. I enjoyed their scenes, and they did add a sort of lightheartedness to an episode that was kind of dark, given the fact that there was an eyeball in the camera and a heart in the
They
machine.
just harvested all the crew.
So it's kind of a dark undertone, but I feel that they added the necessary jokes. So have you got any other sort of positive points around Jermaine 3, or?
I liked the lockdown bonus thing that they added on last year, the girl in the fireplace thing.
Yeah,
when the ship was like, it was like convinced that it was Madame de Pompadour or something. It was like really sad and depressing. And I was like, oh wow, that's really sad and depressing. But it also made coming back to this episode kind of like, oh, that's fun.
Yeah, I guess.
Not a bad thing.
Is there any other good points? Yeah.
And Arthur the horse.
Yes, I forgot about the horse. Yeah, the horse. The addition of the horse wasn't one that I would have expected in this episode.
But they needed it for the solution.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is fair enough, I guess. Yeah, I like how.
I wish I'd shown the moment where he just wanders onto that spaceship. Like, how did that?
I know. Maybe there's his lead scene now.
Well, there is a deleted scene about the horse, but
Ah.
we'll come on to that in my fun facts.
Yeah, I do agree. Arthur the horse was great, and he served his purpose very well.
And
I
they just
guess.
left him on the ship to die.
No, he crashed through the window. He's still in France. It's fine.
Oh, then a time window. He died very quickly.
He probably got some glass in the.
The king probably had it shot after that.
Yeah, probably.
Gift from the doctor? I don't think so.
No, thank you. Yeah, so if we get into the negatives then, I'll go first with mine because it's one that I guess bothers me, and it's not a big one, but I don't like that the doctor has telepathy.
Okay.
Like, I don't like that he can just touch someone's head and be like, oh, hey, okay, so now I can see all of your memories and I can see everything and I can tell you and I can find out everything. I'm like, it's just lazy. I'm like, it's just
very invasive.
Yeah, and it just made him feel overpowered, I think, is the issue I have. Because if he can read minds, because seemingly the droid was in his head as well, speaking at the start when the droid first appears, because like, oh, hang on, you're scanning her. And it's like, how do you know that? It's like, is that being broadcasted? Can you read his mind? Can you read everyone's minds?
Yeah, like he does have moments of OP like that. I mean, he can literally just do that, wipe down his memories of him. Like, why don't you just do that to all the villains? Like, tell them to go away.
And I'll probably have an issue with that because I have an issue with this. And it's another thing with Moffat as well, because he does a similar thing with James Corden in The Lodger, where he sort of shares memories. And I mean, to be fair, it's a sci-fi.
Well, that was Gareth Roberts.
Yeah.
Who we shouldn't talk about anyway because he's trash.
That's a good point. You're right.
Anyway,
but yeah, I just felt that it just felt quick and easy. I think to sort of have to build this character between the two of them, which I guess is fine. You're stuck with 45 minutes, so you need quick solutions to things. But it just felt everything up until now has kind of been grounded with the Doctor, but the fact that he can just read people's minds kind of sort of felt ironically too alien. But it is what it is. He doesn't use it very often. Sometimes you think it would probably speed up the plot a lot more if he did it a lot more.
Yeah.
But it's another one of them things like the sonic screwdriver and the psychic paper, whereas they only get used if the writer thinks, I need to get out of this, or I need to get some information quickly. So it's fine. It's just one of them things, but what can you do? So what was your first negative?
All of my negatives could have been fixed if they just had more time, basically. So they don't bother me too much. I could deal with it, and I liked most elements of the episode more so this time around. Anyway, I just when we see the Doctor and he's like, there's nothing we can do, and like we have to try. He's like trying to close all the time windows and stuff. He's like, no, we have to do it this way. We have to do it this way. The very next time we see him, he's smashing through the window. I was like, I wish we'd seen that decision. I wish we'd seen him make like, well, bye Rose, bye Mickey. I'm just gonna do this. Obviously, they don't show that because it's not going to stick. But we're supposed to be in that moment. It just felt odd that he was like, well, see you guys. Especially coming off the last episode, they strongly implied that the Doctor loves Rose with that scene where he doesn't quite finish the sentence. And he's like, screw you. I found another blonde.
This holler chick's come along. I'm off. I'm up to 18th century France. I'll see you in 3,000 years, maybe. Bye.
Goodbye. So yeah, that bit just felt a bit quick and a bit odd, a bit rushed. And I think that moment, that decision to be like, I'm going to trap myself with this woman forever. Yeah. Even though he was aware of her history, he knew she was going to die.
He knew she was going to die in 6 years.
Yeah. So good on you for still sticking with that, buddy. But yeah, if we had a bit more time with that, it would have been good. But, it wasn't like their final farewell ever, so I can kind of deal with it. So yeah.
No, fair enough. Kind of, for my next negative, kind of relates to that, but sort of further down. I would have preferred the Doctor to have waited 3,000 years than to have just conveniently found the fireplace that was offline at the time of the smashing.
Yeah, they literally moved it to another room and rebuilt it, and it could still does that circly round thing, and that is a bit strange.
Yeah, I I didn't like that was how they sort of got the Doctor back. It just felt very lazy, very sort of, oh shit, now he's trapped in France. How are we going to get him back? I know. We'll say the fireplace was moved and that it was offline during the link break, which therefore means that it's technically physically there, which means the spaceship's physically there, which means it's a physical doorway, which means you can physically go through it. I'm like, hang on, what?
The ultimate Doctor Who technobabble.
Yeah.
I'm sure that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. And I guess it depends what type of Doctor Who lore you want to take from, but the Doctor could have waited 3,000 years. He doesn't age. He ages, but he doesn't age at the same rate. And even we see later on that he can regenerate himself so that he's cured of whatever if he wanted to. So I think I would have much preferred it if he had to wait and then he shows back up at the spaceship like, "Hi, Rose. I'm 3,000 years older. Hello, how are you?" Just because I thought that would have been interesting. And I mean,
those 2,994 years without Reinette were a bit tough, but here I am.
Yeah, exactly. But maybe that's having too much of an impact on the Doctor's character that they don't want to have to carry that weight through. But then Peter Capaldi was stuck in that confession dial for billions of years. Yeah, that doesn't affect his character at all. So and then even Rory was outside of the Pandorica for 2,000 years. That doesn't affect his anything. Literally.
He was plastic though.
I mean, yeah, he is plastic, but still, he's still the same.
They should have had him be a bit melted.
Well, they were not even necessarily appearance wise, but like if you were thinking of just personality, because you can get away with the Doctor saying, "Oh, I don't age" or whatever. Fine, that you just analyze dialogue. But if people had concerns about that his sort of charisma and his personality is the same, there's precedent for that later on down the line, that he does, just because he's been somewhere for 1,000 odd years. Even Matt Smith does whatever with 1,000 years and he's still the same Doctor. All of this just to say, basically, I don't like the fact that the fireplace was used as a get out clause, and I think it would have been a much better ending to sort of have the Doctor turn up in, like, he goes through the window, Rose is like, "Oh my god, when's he going to come back?" And then they're like, "Hang on, what's this on the radar?" And it's a spaceship coming up. He's like, "Hi, I was at the planet just waiting to come on." So, because but it's fine, it's just an issue with that resolution, I guess, that I have overall. But I can kind of understand the reasons that might be behind not doing it. But never mind. So, what's your next negative then?
Again, this just comes from if there had been a bit more time, they could have fleshed it out a bit more. The first kiss is so rushed. Like, she just snogs him. No reason, no build up, no reason. I have so many questions. Snog. Like,
I've known you since I was 7. A bit weird if you're gonna kiss him now.
I know, like, you were 7 years old 10 minutes ago for this guy. Now he's snogging you. Like, that's just no, thank you. And then he was like watching her, like stalking her,
and doing a really bad job of hiding behind the wall when she turns
interesting. So yeah, if they built up the dynamic with him and adult Reinette prior, like another scene of them interacting before this, or at least had them have a scene before she snogs him when she's an adult. How you've grown, Reinette. Like, yeah, we know what you're thinking, buddy. She was a child when you last saw her. Please stop.
You disgusting old man.
There's just been a bit more time. I think they could have fleshed out a dynamic between them before it's just instantly romance, just because the actors are similar ages now. So that's just another thing.
She's supposed to be 21 at that point.
Yeah, so she's like a year older at Rose or something at this point. But I don't like the Doctor and Rose thing either, so it's fine. You don't like the Doctor and Rose relationship? God, are you even a Doctor Who fan? I know, right? I mean, I liked it at the time, so it had the intended effect, of Doctor Who fans who were watching it at the time. But in hindsight, I'm like, I don't like the Doctor having romances with anyone.
12-year-olds. If it works well for 12-year-olds.
Yes, and if you still like that relationship, absolutely fine.
Yeah,
I think it has its moments, but it's just not for me anymore. It's fine.
Fair enough. I did get.
I'm a bitter, sour, loveless old man.
Old.
I don't believe in love anymore, so I don't like relationships.
Yeah, I do agree, and I guess that's part of the whole telepathy thing as well. But they do that after
That's after, yeah.
the first time. But it's fine, I
Yeah, because they
guess.
snog and then he realizes who she is.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, that's Madame
yeah.
de Pompadour.
Yeah, I guess I just needed it for the trailer.
Yeah,
That's what it was for, really, wasn't it?
probably.
But yeah, and I also guess it's kind of it plays into that making the 10th Doctor and David Tennant look like they're young and enthusiastic and trying to get a younger teenager-ish audience in, I think. But I do agree. So my next sort of few, I'll start with this one. The one CGI, the one other than the space station, the one CGI shot in this episode is bad. It's the horse crashing through the window. It has not aged very well. Because obviously remembering this, I'm thinking, oh, it's such a great moment that we smashed through. And in stills, it looks fine, but when it's there, it's like, oh no, this just doesn't look bad. You can tell he's not in the same room as the others. You can tell they've like superimposed him over the top of an empty room. It's just, and I get, it is hard. I couldn't do it. I couldn't make a CGI. I couldn't do that. So it's not like I'm saying idiots. How could you make it look bad? But it did look good for 2006. But watching it in 2021, when we've had so much better CGI, not just elsewhere, but in Doctor Who as well, it just doesn't.
Revolution of the Daleks, all the Daleks flying
exactly.
around the TARDIS. Oh.
So yeah, it just doesn't look very well in this. But to be fair, it's kind of a negative. But that's the only CGI shot in the episode. So I'm glad they stuck with mostly practical use in this, and the practical stuff all works really well. Mm-hmm. Even the weird CGI eye, I wasn't thinking that's a CGI eye.
Yeah. I like the teleporting effects of the droids from there.
Yeah, so everything else worked except for that one scene of the horse jumping through the window.
Just a shame it's the climactic solution of the episode, but
yeah, but never mind, it's fine. So what's your third negative?
Yes, third. Again, if the episode had been a bit longer, you mentioned you liked the Rose and Mickey dynamic, and I like that as well. But they do feel like spare parts in this episode. Just like the crew, am I right? And just like the villains in the next story, am I right? Because there's an audio
adventure called Spare Parts.
But I haven't listened to it.
It's like poetry, it rhymes.
You've been sending me that like 5 times. But yeah, I think there's a lot going on. I get it. But it's Mickey's first trip in the TARDIS, and he's just like immediately relegated to the back.
Yeah.
They are there to get kidnapped. Mm-hmm. They are there to find out what the Doctor just explained is going on 2 minutes later anyway.
Yeah.
They go after the droids twice, once of their own accord and once when the Doctor just sends them after them. And yeah, I like the scene with like Rose talking to Reinette and everything. But for the most part, they're just there to be left behind and kidnapped. And
yeah,
it's a shame because what we do get of them is fun, that dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
There just isn't enough time in the episode to have that be a bigger thing.
Yeah, it feels like this could have easily have been adapted to be a companion-like episode.
Yeah, because it's not quite. They're in it enough for it not to really feel companion-like. I'm like, well,
yeah, because they don't help with the resolution really at all.
No,
I guess the only thing they kind of help with the plot is to help the Doctor realize that their clockwork, or at least see how much clockwork they are. But I'm like, again, if you couldn't get the actors back for this, then you could have easily made this into a companion-like episode. I think easily.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do agree that it would have been great to get more screen time. And if they ever do we say this about most episodes when we want more. If they ever do a Target novelization, I'm sure
this would be a perfect one for Target novelization. Yeah, that's what I was actually thinking as I was writing these out. It's like just had a bit more time for this and this and this, and that would have been really good.
The thing that makes me doubt this will be a Target one is Noel Clarke's involvement in this episode. I don't think they'll want to make a book of it purely because either they'll have to get his picture on the front. And it would be weird not to have that, I guess. So
I'd be alright with it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but I don't think the BBC would want to be seen sort of promoting something with him in.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I don't think we'll be getting this, at least in the near future, which is a shame. And it's a shame that someone being a dickhead has to affect things that we want. I mean, I guess the rule of that is don't be a disgusting human being, and people will like you. Funnily enough.
Yeah, we're not going to get more Target books for like 2 years anyway. It took like 3 years for them to release the second lot. So
yeah, well, I suppose the next lot was supposed to come out last year, weren't they? But because of the pandemic, they were delayed a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think they could have done with some more time. My sort of last one is some of the editing choices in this one. This is kind of my bonus one. There's a couple of, there was one right at the start where there was a weird zoom in on something. I was like, oh, okay. But then it was when the droids like came to get Reinette at the end, and she was the other side of the bed, and then it cut to like a zoomed in close up of Reinette and the king the other side of the bed. But it wasn't like they hadn't moved the camera closer. They literally had the frame and then they just cropped it so that it was. I was like, oh, that doesn't look good, because it like literally lowered the resolution. Like that's how bad of a zoom thing it was.
Yeah.
And that was just sort of one of the things I sort of noticed, because there's been a fair little bit of that, I think, in the first or series and a half, because there's been a few where we've gone, that was a bit of a dodgy cut or a dodgy scene. Like even the monks in Tooth and Claw, the editing on that was all over the place when they tilted the camera at one point, and it's fine. I guess that's the creative freedom you can have if you're a director. But yeah, that was one for me. And then, as teased earlier, the child Reinette, I don't think was the best.
They want me.
They want me. You want me. I was like, oh god.
And so many child actors this season.
And then when he's like on her face, she's like, I was like, oh no. There are, and I completely forgot there was a child actor in this episode, because to be fair, she's in one scene, or two scenes, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just didn't think that was good.
Can't wait for Chloe Webber.
Yay.
Goodbye, Chloe Webber. I love you.
Oh, at least that's the last child actor in this series. No, there's some for there's the, I guess not a child actor, but there's a young one in TV one.
Oh, it is that one.
That's it, yeah. There is the young boy in that, but I suppose he's not really a child.
Yeah. And who could forget the boy who climbs the stairs in Army of Ghosts, and then there's a Cyberman that stood at the top of the stairs like,
oh, how did he get there? Again, I don't know. But yes, child actors have not been this series' forte, and I don't think they've been the show's forte throughout its history. I don't think it doesn't matter what series we're in. I don't think there's really been a good child actor. Just think I
don't mind the girl in The Doctor, the Widow and the Wardrobe, but the boy is awful.
Yes, yeah, but again, the girl is slightly older. She's more teenager than child.
True.
Just think of the what's the one where Amy and Rory and they all get trapped in the dollhouse? Night Terrors.
Oh, yeah.
The kid in Night Terrors is terrible.
You come to take me away.
You come to take me away.
I feel bad. We shouldn't really be taking the piss out of child actors. Like,
we should,
they're doing their best.
If they want to be on TV,
this is the industry.
No, we shouldn't. They are doing their best, but
if it takes us out of the episode, then
I still feel
if I'm sure they're all lovely people in real life.
If someone's not good at their job, they should be told they're not good at their job.
Wow, we really are grumpy old men.
Besides, that child actor's probably not acting anymore, and probably doesn't want to be involved in the show anymore. We'll never bully them to the extent of the child that played Anakin. That one was pretty bad.
Poor guy. Poor guy.
But yeah, so once again, we've ripped into the negatives more than we expected to.
See,
have you got any other sort of additional points you wanted to pop in?
I don't think so.
No, fair enough. My sort of one that I want to sort of pick up on when it comes to Stephen Moffat is that there's a line from Reinette where she's talking about the Doctor's name, and she's like, "Oh, it's more than a name" or something like that. Which makes me think, is this where Moffat got his idea for his Name of the Doctor arc in series 8?
Yeah, well,
Series 7?
there was some in like forums from years and years and years ago. You can see when he was on it just as like a teenager, he had the idea of like the Doctor and everything, and like why is he calling himself Doctor? What if that influences other people? And I'm like, they changed the word, like the meaning of the name Doctor and stuff. So he's had those ideas ever since he was a kid. So
yeah, and
it's cool to see him kind of trying to slide that into his episodes.
See that hint there, and then obviously you get it a lot more with River's song effectively saying exactly that during the end of series 6. And then literally there's a whole episode called The Name of the Doctor, and and Day of the Doctor delves into it as well. But I like that you can see there's sort of like little tiny things that he seems to be planting that he'll pick up on when he eventually takes over, which I enjoyed. I mean, I can see why, watching his episodes, I can see why he was picked to be the next showrunner. Because, like I said, you know, we've had how many of his stories now? Is it 3? Was this his 3rd script? Did he write any more than the 2-parter in series 1?
No.
So this is his 3rd one, I think.
Yeah.
And all 3 of his episodes so far have been great.
Yeah. And then he has Blink and the Library 2-part in series 4.
Yeah, but
again, takes over.
Those 3 are also great episodes. So, yeah.
And then you mentioned Dinosaurs on the Spaceship earlier, written by Chris Chibnall.
So. Yeah, I know. We'll get into that eventually. And 42, that's coming up as well. That's a Chris Chibnall episode.
I don't mind 42.
You say that now, but we're going to get to it soon. And you'll be like, oh, maybe not.
It's not my favourite by any means, but
don't forget, Chris Chibnall also wrote Cyberwoman, which, to be fair, I don't mind Cyberwoman in Torchwood. I like that episode.
I just keep thinking of them throwing ketchup on her as a solution.
Isn't it barbecue sauce? Not ketchup?
Maybe.
Like
it's a condiment.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
There's an exposed Cyberwoman costume.
By all means, go and Google Torchwood Cyberwoman and you'll see what we're on about.
And I'm sorry in advance if you do.
God, that whole first series of Torchwood is wild.
It's right. Somehow they got a 2nd season.
And then a 3rd and a 4th.
But at least the 3rd was like best TV of all time.
Yeah. But yeah, so I can see why Moffat was chosen to carry the show on. So let's get into your fun facts. Have you got any for us?
Oh, I do indeed.
Every time we go, I'm like, oh no, he's forgotten.
Oh no, one of these days I will forget.
Oh.
But it's fine. Not today, sir. What do we say to the god of fun facts? Not today.
Oh, okay. Right. So you're rating.
Anyway, this is the only episode of series 2 to not reference Torchwood at all.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. But yeah, I suppose you're right. They could have easily put Torchwood's SS Mad and the Pompadour.
Yeah, Moffat said it would have felt very, very forced into an episode with this story and stuff.
They're always forced into the.
It's true. I mean, I didn't even. So when I read that, I was like, "That's not true. They don't reference Torchwood in Fear Her, but they do."
Which was that?
I love you, Chloe Webb. It's I didn't even know that this was a reference. Yeah. I looked up the script, but when they're doing commentary of like all the people disappearing in the stadium, they're like, "Oh, we haven't had a massacre like this since the Torchwood incident." I was like, "Oh." So that's fun, really? But it's like right in the background, you can't really hear it, but it's reference.
Because I think it's like there's a thing going around online recently that the Sanctuary Base 6 team is effectively a Torchwood team, I think.
Yeah, they mentioned there with Torchwood.
They represent the Torchwood archives or something like that.
Yeah.
So there's a theory that they're actually the Torchwood team, but
that'd be cool.
Whether or not that was intended, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, half of them are dead, so it's fine. As
just
is
like
the case with every Torchwood team, I suppose. Yeah. Either half dead or all dead, or half all immortal.
Or one's killed everyone because it's the turn of the century and that's when everything changes, and then so much death.
That's too much death. Oh, Tosh. Working titles for this episode were Madame de Pompadour, which is boring. Reinette and the Lonely Angel, which I quite like. I like the Girl in the Fireplace as a title anyway.
Yeah.
And then the worst one of all, every tick of my heart.
Oh, Jesus
Imagine,
Christ.
can you imagine? That would have absolutely been my negative if that was the final
hi,
episode
hi
title.
guys. So this week we're looking at every tick of my heart. It's not. That doesn't. No, that's terrible.
It's hilarious, but yeah, a very bad title. I'm hoping that was just like a joke one that they threw around, but who can
And
really
they changed
say?
it right before they aired the episode. They went, no, wait, stop.
Yeah, quick, pull it. Yeah, David Tennant and Sophia Myles started dating after this episode.
That's a shock.
Yeah,
God, he does go around the sets a lot, doesn't he?
I know, right? But the relationship ended the following year, so he had to date his daughter instead. And
I was going to say, and then I was like, they. Well, it depends when. I guess that would have been series 3, so not quite.
2007 is when they ended the relationship.
Oh, well, they would have been filming. They would have been filming series 4 in 2007, I guess.
Let's not speculate any of this, shall we? The Doctor Who fandom's been through enough stuff in the past week or so let's not add that into the mix.
That's
fair. The horse wasn't allowed in the ballroom, so all the different elements of that scene smashing through the mirror had to be filmed separately and composited together. As you can see, as you can see, that ended up very well. The dress that Reinette wears in the ballroom scene was originally worn by Helen Mirren, even in the 1994 film The Madness of King George. So that saved the costume department a bit of money.
Yep.
This was originally the second episode of the series, but was moved back to the fourth, which I'm glad they did because School Reunion come before this makes it better in my eyes. Many of the spaceship sets were redressed Satellite 5 sets, saving that old money.
Oh, at least you can't tell.
No, I think they did a good job.
Which is a much better way of redressing that than they did in The Long Game and then the next one.
Yeah,
but
that's fair.
Maybe the budget went up.
Maybe it did. There's a deleted scene featuring the owner of Arthur the Horse, who also got trapped on the spaceship.
Oh.
And he was an absolute arse and threatened to beat Arthur when he found the horse. So probably for the best they cut that out.
I mean, historically accurate, but
it's on the DVD. Check it out. And then fan speculation, that good old thing again. From the Series 2 trailer that aired after the Christmas invasion, a lot of people thought the Clockwork Droids were going to be Autons because of their weapons coming out of their arms, because no villain in history has ever also had weapons coming out of their arms. It's a very unique thing. Definitely not. So that's proven.
The Sidemen definitely don't do that at the end of the series either.
Definitely not. And this episode states that Reinette died aged 43, but in reality, she died aged 42. So they got it wrong. Fools. Do your research.
How dare they?
She was a year younger when she died, god damn it.
To be fair, I bet it's like they just looked at the dates and went, okay, that's 46, and they didn't see what the age was.
Yeah, I don't think they went month by month and realised
that's a shame.
She hadn't turned old. But
it's fine,
I guess. I mean, it's sad because it's actually a person who didn't exist that they got that wrong.
Yes, yeah.
The age they were when they died is a pretty big deal in someone's personal history.
Yeah.
But there you go.
Wikipedia would have said the right age anyway. Why don't
it happened? It happened. But what can you do? So yeah,
it's fine.
Those are my fun facts for the week.
Boy, loads and loads of fun. So I guess that's kind of where we end up. So all that's left to do is ask, out of 10, what are you rating this episode?
I'm torn again. I'm torn between 7 and 7.5.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. What would you give it?
I'm giving it an 8, which I think is the same as School Reunion, because I literally started this saying I enjoyed it as much as School Reunion.
That's true.
Because I do think these two episodes are probably on par for me. I enjoyed both of them probably equally as much. They both flew by for me. All the characters are great. Sci-fi's great. For me, a good episode overall.
Yeah. I was toying it up. I think I'm going to go for 7.
Ooh.
Because I gave Tooth and Claw an A, and I enjoyed that a lot more than this one.
Okay, interesting.
So I think 7. Sorry, Girl in the Fireplace stands. 70% is good.
How dare you? God's sake.
That's a first in uni. So
yeah, that's how it goes.
First.
Yeah, that's how we always look at things. Over 50% is fine.
Yeah.
Pass. But yeah, I mean, I think we've had a good record with this series so far then. I think
apart from New Earth, yeah.
Yeah.
It's been solid.
I think that's going to continue for the next 2 episodes.
Cybermen.
Yes.
Cybermen.
Because next up is...
Cybermen.
What's Age of Steel?
That's part two.
Part two.
Next is Rise of the Cybermen.
Yeah,
Cybermen.
right. So
Cybermen.
in case you didn't know what was coming
Cybermen.
In case the next time,
it's the Daleks.
Yeah, in case the next time trailer didn't spell it out enough for you, and the title doesn't do it. It is Rise of the Cybermen, which is a two-parter, which, surprise, surprise, is the return of the Cybermen, because this will see the Doctor, Rose, and Mickey get trapped on a parallel Earth where humans are obsessed with technology. When would that ever happen?
No way.
And yeah, effectively that leads to the rise of the Cybermen.
I get the title now.
Yeah. So naturally, what are your expectations?
Cybermen. So, I mean, I say that, I hype it up. I think I do prefer part two, because having watched the episode many times, I'm just like, just get to the Cybermen.
Yeah, but there's a lot of meandering, and the episode treats it, I think, as what's gonna happen when we know what's gonna happen. We know
when you
there
call
is
your
Cybermen.
episode "Rise of the Cybermen," and the opening episode, the opening scene, you can see like a blue Cyberman.
Because that's what it means. Is like they try and hide it there, but you know it, and it just does feel like it's meandering.
Yeah. So I don't really have a connection to Parallel Earth Pete or Parallel Earth Jackie.
What about the homeless people that are gonna get taken?
Yeah, guess. Mickey's Nan, I think that works.
Yeah, I think that'll be a nice emotional beat for this.
That lot and everything.
And the CBBC presenter.
Yeah. Oh, Jake. Yeah. I feel like I do remember it being quite slow for me, because I just want to get to the Cybermen because they're my favorite villains.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm intrigued to see how I reapproach it, because normally if I go back and watch, series 2, whatever, I will just put part 2 on. So we'll see how I go back to it. I'm going to enjoy it at least at a basic level, because it's got Cybermen in it, and I love Cybermen. I'm looking forward to watching Roger Lloyd Pack's performance as John Lumick, because it was not well received.
Is it not? Oh,
no,
because he's not
very good.
But very hammy, I guess.
Yes. I suppose crashing the party would be inappropriate. For instance. Rest in peace, Roger. You were a very funny man. Love you in Only Fools and Horses. And Vicky Dibley, of course, you're great in that as well. Maybe not in this, but we'll see. I don't know. I haven't seen it in ages. And yes, I love Cybermen. I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited for I think this is the first time we're going to see outside of the universe, which doesn't happen a lot on Doctor Who. So I'm excited to see the return of a parallel universe and see how that fits in with the overall story. I'm expecting some character development, maybe not in the next episode, but definitely by the end of the two-parter. I think we'll have some new depth to some characters, hopefully. Oh, and we've got the cool bit where the guy listens to Lion Sleeps Tonight as they're all being sliced up. Yeah. That's always fun. That's in there. That's number one positive. Homeless people dead. Lion Sleeps Tonight. Win-win. Oh boy. I felt like we put our foot in it so many times this time. Oh, it's fine. People know that we're joking. I hope they know. They won't if we are joking. If they haven't made it to the end of this one, then we'll get a load of comments. That's fine. But yeah, I guess we'll sort of leave it there, and we will be back next week for Rise of the Cybermen. Cybermen. So if you want to watch that, stick around on the channel. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Bye.